The process of withdrawing the French troops who overstayed their welcome in Niger began today, October 10, 2023. Niger security forces will tightly escort the first French convoy out of their country, just to make sure they don't get lost. Niger closed its borders with Benin and Nigeria for obvious reasons, but reopened with Burkina Faso, Mali, Chad, Algeria, and Libya. Chad has agreed to host the French troops who are booted out of Niger. I mean, it only makes sense because the command of French forces in the Sahel region is based in N'Djamena, the capital city of Chad. But let's remind ourselves of how this situation came about. When the new regime in Niger took power at the end of July, they quickly demanded that France remove its troops from their territory. And they even gave them a deadline. It was September 4th. But the French government, in a typical display of arrogance, publicly stated that they did not recognize the new authorities in Niger and, as a consequence, decided to disrespect Niger's authorities by keeping their troops and diplomats in the country, even though they were told to leave. It's kind of giving Belgium vibe when the Belgian minister stated Belgium has a moral obligation to watch over DRC. As in who? Who are you? It's like me saying to you, my neighbor decided to date someone else and I, a mere neighbor, do not recognize his new relationship. I mean, if your next question is not, how is that any of your business? Then trust me, you do not have my best interest at heart. On top of that, the French government engaged in a series of provocations against Niger's authorities through its tool of propaganda, the French media. It is also important to remind that Niger, under the former president Bazoum, had welcomed the French troops who were booted out of Mali and Burkina Faso. No wonder El Macron was in distress like that guy in that movie Titanic when Bazoum was sinking, and he came to tell us that he speaks with Bazoum every day. I mean, were we supposed to be jealous or what? Anyways, the authorities in Niger were left with no other choice than to make life as miserable as possible for the French troops and the unwanted diplomats in their soil. Side note, this is just a quick message to say thank you to those of you who interact and share the African Diary content. I also want to say thank you to those who continue to make sure my coffee stash doesn't go down through the link Buy Me a Coffee, and those who physically gave me a coffee. Thank you very much. By the way, in case you're wondering, the content of this plate is made of coffee beans, cashew nuts, and peanuts. But back to the story. They seriously disrupted the supply of water, fuel, and ration to those French bases. In this French in Niger saga, the local authorities acted with a lot of wisdom to the point of humbling the French authorities. In my village, they say, even if a lion has lost weight, you cannot treat it like a cat. The French elites arrogantly refused to leave, but here they are living. These troops were deployed in the region to help Niger's authorities fight against armed groups and curb their number. However, their presence has been facing criticism from the local population and host countries for not delivering. Some have accused France of interfering with host countries' sovereignty and failing to curb insecurity. However, they've managed to equate their absence from Niger to Niger refusing to fight against these armed groups, which is a weird take. It's like having French troops in your country is now synonymous with a country's willingness to fight against criminality. This is madness. The people who commit those horrible acts are not targeting French people, but the people of Niger. So somehow we should believe that the French government cares more about the people of Niger more than the government of Niger. I think the African diaspora or les Gilets jaunes in France would prefer to have this affection directed to them because the people of Niger have their government. Now, they will be living by road because Niger has banned French civil and military aircraft from flying over its territory. Their new home will be Chad until they are asked to leave. If it's your first time interacting with my content, I would like to welcome you and let you know that I have a podcast on YouTube full of non-political stories. You can find it in the podcast sections of the channel. I also have a book of Proverbs which you can access through the link below. Moreover, I create fire content that speaks for itself. Please check out my catalog and thank you for your time.
We, ni nini?